Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our final day of the CiRCE Institute's College Fair. Today we have Greg Wilbur and Autumn Kennedy from New College Franklin, who will be joining us, or have joined us, and we'll be talking to you a little bit about New College Franklin and what you can expect if you were to go for a visit there or to attend there. And I'll be turning it over to them in about 15 minutes or so. Thank you to those who are able to join us live and participate in the conversation and the questions that follow. And for those of you who are listening to the recording later on, welcome. And we hope that you find today's presentation profitable and hopeful, and the whole week of presentations. I think my notes are a little bit smaller today than they were this week, so I have to put my reading glasses on. Okay, so all week long we've been talking about keeping the faith in college, and we talked about habits and community and how to read the bad guys and the necessity of dogma when it comes to dialectic in the classroom and or with the ideas that you're confronted with. Today I want to talk about the my title for it, I called it the nobility of norms, which I think requires some explanation, but the explanation is what I mean by it. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so one of the things that happens in our modern world when it comes to going to college, is that college gets viewed as this place or this time in your life, this experience that's like, it's kind of like it's a parenthetical within your life. So you have this whole childhood where you're living with your parents and going to school and you're learning all this stuff and you're following all these rules. And then you're going to graduate from college and you're going to become an adult. And they really do talk like that. Like they even refer to those activities as adulting, as if being responsible is something that you don't start doing until you're an adult. It's kind of strange. So then you start adulting and maybe you're married and you have kids and a house and a job and career and all that stuff, right? And then during that time of your life, it's the same thing. You have all these responsibilities that you have and rules that you're following, responsibilities that you have to execute, rules that you have to follow. And it's like, it's the same thing as what you did back here, except back here you were doing it with your parents and now here you're doing it with your bosses. And then college is this parenthetical that happens in between those two things. And the way the modern world looks at college is that during this parenthetical, there's no rules, or there are no responsibilities, or there are no consequences. You can kind of do whatever you want during this time, and there are no consequences for that. There's actually a really disturbing book called I Am Charlotte Simmons by, of course, I forget the author's name. Do I have it? No, I can't remember the author's name. But anyways, it's this book called I Am Charlotte Simmons, and it's about this girl that goes from, she lives in the rural North Carolina, and then she moves to Pennsylvania, and she goes to like a pseudo Ivy League school. It's a fake school in the book, but it's kind of like Duke University. And the whole premise of the book is like wrestling with this idea that she can just go there and there's this parenthetical in her life and she can just do whatever she wants and there are no consequences for her choices, for her actions. So basically that's how the modern world looks at college. And that you may even get sucked into that mindset when you get there without even realizing it, especially depending on the kind of college you go to. The other way that the modern world looks at college is that this is your time to break free from all of those things that you had it forced upon you in your childhood. And so you had all these beliefs and rules, um, and these dogmas and ideas that your parents impose on you about how the world works, and none of those are true. And college is the place where you can finally get out from underneath the thumb of your mom telling you what to believe, and you can start exploring reality as it really is. And you can kind of shove off those old-fashioned traditionalist beliefs that your parents imposed on you, that your church imposed on you, that your grandparents imposed on you, and you can view the world more progressively and see and start believing the truth of, not that they would necessarily believe that there is such a thing as truth, but that you can start interacting with the world the way it's supposed to be interacted with. Um, and that too is a lie. Neither of those things are true. College is not a parenthetical where you can do whatever you want and there are no consequences. Neither is college this place where you can finally get out from under the thumb of authority, of reality, and start picking and choosing to believe whatever you want based on what makes you feel happy. Um, so, hopefully you're going to go to a good college where that sort of thing isn't being presented to you, um, and that the values and the truths about how the world actually works, ultimate reality, will be reinforced, not dismissed. Um, the but almost in any case, I mean, I think it'll be worse. You go to a big school with 30, 40, 50,000 students, and just by the sheer volume of students that are there, that will be the case almost no matter how hard the faculty was fighting against it. Um, though in those schools with students that big, I don't think you find as many faculty fighting against it. But even in a smaller school with faculty fighting against it, there's still just the culture, the TV shows, movies, music, everything is just kind of reinforcing that, and you kind of have to be aware. So, what really we need to do is look at our life as, we have this first part of our life with our parents, where our parents are trying to inculcate in us a sense um, of identity, but an identity that can live in the world that we have, that we are in, and live in it according to the way God created it to be lived in. Now, how well we do that, we as parents do that, is, you know, we face the same struggles with the culture infecting our way of thinking too, and it becomes more and more difficult. Um, but that's what we're trying to do. And then when you go to college, there's this sense of like, okay, now you're doing the same thing, but now what's being communicated is that you're an adult now at this point before you get to college, but now you're in college and you're an adult without that kind of immediate supervisor of the parent. And so now you're responsible to continue making those same kinds of choices, and being responsible to ultimate reality, without somebody enforcing it on you. Like being adult enough and responsible enough to choose to do that because it's the right thing to do, not because mom and dad are making you. And then when you get past college, you're continuing to do that, but you're doing it, and the extent to which you do it affects more than just you and your college community. It affects your family, your coworkers, employees, supervisors, bosses, whatever, the whole larger community. So there's this sense of you're responsible, but you're in the first stage, you're responsible, but you're responsible under your parents. In the second stage of college, you're responsible, but the extent of the responsibility is limited. And then when you get on past college, now you're continuing in that responsibility, but the extent to which the effects of that responsibility spread is further and deeper. So when you think about the ancient world, there's this sense of a class system, right? Where you have like the nobility, the elites, or whatever you want to call them, um, who ruled and controlled Athens, and then they had all these other people, the slaves and servants and stuff, and um, and then there was this sense of these were the citizens, the more fully human people, the free people versus the servile people. The thing is, there's a movement back and forth between the if we're talking about, if we refer to these people as the nobility, there's a movement back and forth between the nobility and the rights that they have, and the responsibilities that they have, making them the nobility. So in one sense, we think of them as the nobility because they were rich, because they were powerful, because they were whatever. And so then they got to do things like own land, vote, and rule in the assembly. But on the other hand, they were the nobility because they had the responsibility that comes with being a landowner, with voting, and with ruling in the assembly. So in this ancient understanding, somebody is a member of the nobility because they were landowners and voters and rulers, and they had to know how to execute those responsibilities correctly. And so then, um, because those responsibilities were so heavy, it required that those people receive a certain kind of education. The rest of the people, the servile people, received a different kind of education, because so you have the liberal arts education over here and you have the servile arts education over here, and they received this servile arts education because they didn't have those responsibilities, and therefore um, didn't necessarily need to know how to execute them properly or whatever. In the modern world, what happens is those responsibilities have been extended, but we don't think of them as responsibilities. We think of them as rights. So I have the right to own property, I have the right to vote, and I have the right to rule. And we don't think about the responsibilities that come with them. So what we've done in the modern world is we've extended those rights to everybody, ignored the fact that responsibilities accompany those rights, and then not given people the education that's required for them to exercise their responsibilities and their rights properly. Um, so the there's all kinds of responsibility that comes with owning land, caring for it properly, but also you're caring for the people that are helping you care for the property. Especially if it's large farmland or something. The responsibilities that come with voting well, and the responsibilities that come with ruling. But then the modern world, we've given all that right, all those rights and responsibilities to everybody, and then no education to accompany it. Um, so what this means is that by doing that, the modern world has declared every single one of you part of the nobility. Now, the modern world hasn't offered you anything to go with that, to help you do that properly, but the ancient world has. The ancient world has said, if you're a nobility, you have to have this kind of education. You have to know how to exercise your rights and responsibilities correctly. So what your parents have done by giving you a classical education, and what the college can help you do, if the college is a college like New College Franklin, that's going to have you reading um, in the great books and in the tradition, you're going to get an education that is helping you to know how to exercise those responsibilities and rights correctly, properly, according to ultimate reality, as God has created. I just pointed outside my window because that was ultimate reality for me. Um, and so, so one of the things that we need to do as we go into this next stage of life, from this, being responsible under our parents to now being responsible ourselves, um, is to lean into this need and fulfill this need, is to get this education. And this education is normative. It's an education that teaches, normative meaning that it teaches us how to act normally with respect to ultimate reality. There are norms, there are mores, ethical codes. There's all kinds of things that kind of demand how I respond or how I interact with the natural world, with the world around me. And so what a good education does, a classical education, the kind of education that New College is going to offer, is it gives you the stories to help us to think in this normative capacity and in these moral categories. You think of things, you start thinking and asking yourself questions like, what will this character do? Or what should this character do? Or why did the character do that? Should he have done that? What should he have done? And asking those kinds of questions teaches us to keep in the forefront of our mind these normative categories, um, in order to think about how we live in this world responsibly. So um, it acknowledges look, this education, this the nobility of norms acknowledges who we are. We are nobility simply because of the rights and the responsibilities that have been given to us, whether we wanted them or not. The world gave them to us, and now we have to be responsible for them, because they come with responsibilities. And acknowledging that even in this gap, when the rest of the world is saying this is the perfect 4-year time period to live as if there are no responsibilities and there are no consequences, completely false. And recognizing that this is the time when I start practicing the responsibilities and acknowledging them as responsibilities I actually have, and training myself now to be able to fulfill these responsibilities without mom and dad making me, doing it on my own so that I can carry that into the next stage of my life. Um, Seeing college as that period, that period of time when that's what I'm learning, can help keep me from falling into those traps, those lies that the modern world is telling us, that college is just a place to have fun and to let loose and there are no consequences, and this is the time when I can shove off and reject um, the rules that I don't like, that mom and dad imposed on me. It, by recognizing the nobility of norms and that this is what college is for, can help me to reject those lies, not the lies of my parents, but the lies of the culture. Because yeah, and and that can help keep me from falling away from the faith. It can help me to keep the faith in college because I'm recognizing what college is actually intended for, and I'm recognizing what I actually am in the eyes of God and in the world around me. And again, for better or for worse, whether we like it or not, we are a nobility that have been given rights, and the world has lied to us and told us that we can have those rights without any responsibilities, but it's not true. With those rights come a lot of responsibilities, and we have to prepare ourselves to fulfill those responsibilities. So that's my last note for the week on how to keep the faith in college. I think everything that I said this week is important in one way or another. Um, our habits, our community, our friends, how we read the bad guys, um, how we maintain our traditions, our dogmas, and enter into dialectic with them, and then how we accept responsibility. All of those things are going to be important, but some of them will be recognizable, I think, to many of you as perhaps I need to focus on that one a little bit more than the others because that one's harder for me. So figuring that out about yourself will be kind of a next exercise for you all. I hope you find these helpful, and I hope you carry those forward into your college career, if that ends up being the route you choose to go. So, anyways, thank you for giving me your attention. These 5 20-minute segments, and now I would like to welcome New College Franklin to the Zoom and to the microphone, and Greg Wilbur and Autumn Kennedy. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
All right, I'm going to pin you, so the floor is yours, sir.
Great. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm Greg Wilbur. founder of New College and have been part of the formation of the school for a number of years. And Autumn is one of our sophomores from the Cincinnati area, and wanted to bring her along because she can answer a lot better questions about what college life is like from the student perspective, and gives an opportunity for us to discuss some of those things and not just hear me say all the things that one would say, because it's good to have those things affirmed by someone who's actually lived through them, and that's an important part. Dr. Bianco, I appreciate what you said, and I would add one addendum to the last thing that you said in terms of these are the things that you need to try to figure out as you're in college. I think one of the things that we talk about when with prospective weekends, as we talk to parents and to students, there are a lot of questions that you have as you enter into to college. For most people, it's the first time they left home. It's the first time that they've separated from the identity that they have within their family unit. It's probably the first time that they've chosen where to go to church on their own. So the things like, what do I believe, and how do I fit in, and where is my place in this community? Those are the types of questions that you're going to ask no matter where you go to college. I think what we strive to do at New College is to provide an environment and a support and a mentoring and a discipling situation in which we walk through those with students through those questions. And so that you don't necessarily have to do those things on your own, that you're being held to the accountability of what it means to be responsible to the call that God has placed on you. But you're doing so in a place that's challenging you on that, but also encouraging you and making sure that that's something that you do well, because it's not always the case, sadly. But there's also a very distinctive part of what we are at New College. We desire to be a community that's not only academically rigorous, but also that is spiritually formative. And so what we do with regards to the curriculum and our interaction with students and the discipleship model that we have in the classroom and outside of the classroom is to bring those lessons to life. And I think that's part of what education is. It's not just filling your head with knowledge, but actually living those things out and being challenged in those things, one-on-one in iron sharpening iron as well. I have some slides and things, but Autumn, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say we spend so much time in class and it's wonderful, but it's the rest of being outside the classroom that makes all of that sink in. Um, yeah, and it's that teaching of the whole man, and it's it's just so encouraging to have people who do care about all of you as you're asking those questions.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up the idea of the whole person as well. You know, the medieval concept of man as thinker, man as maker, and man as worshiper is very much central to what we how we view students. It's not just dealing with brains. We are dealing with a whole person, and what we do from the curriculum and how we go about it and how we embody that is an important part. I want to talk through a little bit about the curriculum and the life at New College, and I will attempt to share a screen. This is where I get nervous, but
Yeah.
this one there. Is it like really tiny?
It's not too bad. If you click to start it, will it mess up your screen so you can't see?
I don't know. I don't think so. Um,
Oh, that is tiny.
um,
It's tinier that way than it was the way before.
this is always having fun here. Let me try this differently. Are you seeing all of it or just the main screen?
I see the main slide, the school, the logo, and the sidebars, the red sidebars, and that's it. And then the top and the bottom are black, and it's just that picture in the middle.
Gotcha. Um, sorry about that. Let me see. Is that better?
No,
Of course not.
Might be better to just to not start the slideshow and actually just leave it in the window, the open window. Even though I could see the little sidebar with the thumbnails, it was bigger. The slide itself was.
Okay, so it's not it's still small.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'll try to talk through it and see the best you can on that. All right. So New College Franklin, we're just south of Nashville, Tennessee. It's in the heart of a small community that's in Middle Tennessee, very much in the middle. Our vision statement is under the lordship of Jesus Christ, New College Franklin disciples students to the liberal arts for wisdom, virtue, and service. And if you have ideas about fixing this, yeah, that'd be good too. The idea is that we see things, all things under Christ, and the liberal arts are the means and the mode by which we disciple students into wisdom, into virtue, into service, and then it's always difficult, I think, when you talk about college or you show beautiful pictures um, because I know a lot of people will be saying the same things, and that's a good thing. What we mean by some of those things might be a little bit different. Um, don't believe you can actually know something unless you're putting it into practice. And so part of our motto is orthodoxy, orthopraxy, right belief and right doing, that you have to live out the things that you learn in order to truly know them. And that's where the aspects of wisdom and virtue, and then in service, the love of God, of love of neighbor comes in. This quote by Samuel Eliot Morison is an important one to us. Book learning alone might be got by lectures and reading, but it was only by studying and disputing, eating and drinking, playing and praying as members of the same collegiate community, in close and constant association with each other and with tutors, that the priceless gift of character could be imparted.
Yeah, I would say, in addition to that, with these liberal arts, we're really learning how to see. We're learning how to see the world. I'm taking art class right now, which is all about learning how to see. And when you learn how to see how numbers work, how shapes work, um, how to copy something with a pencil, when you're inspired with such a sense of gratitude in the beauty that God has made, and then you begin to see, well, you know, if the lilies are that beautiful, how beautiful are God's children? And I think then when you're doing that with fellow image bearers, that's where you really get to have that character and approach anybody with that gratitude.
And it also means that what we learn is not just within the hours that we're in the classroom, but actually living those things out together. And some of those conversations obviously go outside of the classroom, but it's that living of life together and that true sense of community. We have freshmen as they come in read Bonhoeffer's book Life Together, to give that sense of what does it really mean to be in community. One of the things that he talks about is community is not the goal, but it's a blessing. And it's a blessing that comes from a group of people who are in Christ and who have the same aims and the same purposes, and that it's in Christ that we then have this blessing of community. So if that's our goal, if community is goal, why you don't have to actually sit in classes and read hard books to do that and write papers. You can create community in all sorts of different ways, but the community that we have is in Christ through this process of learning and growing in wisdom and in maturity. And it's a beautiful thing, because then that does flow out into eating and drinking and playing and praying together. I think one of the questions we get too is how do you know that New College is right for you? There's a lot of different college choices, and I'm so excited about more and more options, especially the micro college kind of idea of things where students can go, especially after they've spent the time and the sacrifice in being classically educated. What's the next step? You don't want to undo the things that you've done, but also you want to extend that. But there are a number of different places one could go, and I think you need to figure out what's best for you in your next steps. So New College is not necessarily for everybody, and I don't mean that from an elitist standpoint. It just needs to fit what it is that God's calling you to be. We love to have students come and visit and to be in conversation with us, because it helps sometimes for them to understand where it is that they are being called to, and that college can be something different. And that's the part of the point. College has gotten, university has gotten so far off track from what it was meant to be. And to have a situation in which you are reading original sources in conversation with tutors, professors, students, and doing so in a way that's not just, you're not just being lectured to, but you're actually forming your mind around questions, is a rich experience. And to do that in a Christian community that embraces the historic seven liberal arts, which is a distinctive part of what we're about. We'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But just overall, like what's the type of student who likes to who typically comes to New College? It's usually somebody who enjoys reading, and they talk about ideas. But as we said before, for the purpose of application, it's not just somebody who wants to get smart and fill up their intellect, but there's a purpose and there's a direction in that, and that's really virtue. I mean, that you're not being prideful or puffed up in that, but you're actually leading towards a life of virtue. You value discussion-based instruction and interaction. Autumn, what does that look like in the classroom, especially like in a moral philosophy class?
Yeah, it means listening to each other. That's the first thing that we learned in moral philosophy 1 was there are so many things you can think, and then in that there are so many things you could say, but there's usually only one thing. Sometimes there's nothing, but usually there's only one thing that you can say that would actually be the thing that would love your neighbor and actually move the conversation forward as we're trying to look for truth. So it's really learning how to listen before it's learning how to speak.
That is, as Bonhoeffer talks about this too, the ministry of listening. That is a great gift, especially in this day and age that we don't really necessarily listen to each other well. And we also have this tendency that freshmen need to be let out of in their first semester, especially. The point of having discussion in discussion class is not for you to say the smart thing. It's not for you to get noticed for being the most intelligent. It's to have a conversation. And if all the time while the conversation is going on, you're thinking of the smart thing that you're about to say, you're not loving your neighbors. You're not thinking about them and listening to them. You're trying to get your own point across. And part of that as well is what does it mean to value truth?
Right.
That do you value truth because it's been out on the table and you're now discussing it, or do you value it because you're the one that brought it to the table? And recognizing what is our relationship to truth, not as an idea or not something that we can wield, but as the person of Christ, that he is the way, the truth, and the life. And what does it mean to then grow in wisdom as we grow in our knowledge of the truth, and to do so in that discussion based interaction. In addition, you appreciate the parallel developments of spiritual and intellectual life. I don't believe that you can divorce spirituality from education. It's not just about knowing the right things, but living the right way. And that is a constant process of repentance, because you keep coming up across things that you didn't know or things that you were wrong about, and having the humility to admit that and to grow under that, and to make that an important part of what you're learning and how you're growing. We have a daily prayer service in terms of keeping the hours. And so we chant psalms and we sing 4-part psalms, and it's a regular part of the rhythm of the life of the college, and just reminds us and grounds us of why we're here, and to take that moment between classes, that 20 minutes to do that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say I really appreciate that there's this joy of knowledge, and we approach everything as Christians, so we can say whatever is true and good and beautiful in what we're looking at, like that belongs to us. And yeah, that all knowledge is connected, and it's connected through Christ. So in that way, we have access to whatever God is saying to us in whatever we see.
You welcome growing together as a community to serve and provide accountability. It's very much, as a small college, you see a lot of the same people a lot of the time, and and you have the beautiful opportunity of learning how to live together. I think that's one of the things that people say, well, with such a small such a small student body, isn't that rather limiting? But the reality is, if you're in a university of 30, 40,000 students, you wind up becoming friends with or bonding together with the people who most think like you. And in some ways, you have more of a smothering sameness than you have in a place like New College, in which you have the opportunity, you're given the opportunity to learn how it is to get along with people who you might not necessarily have chosen to be your friends, but that God has placed in your life for particular reasons. And that's a beautiful example, I think, of what the body of Christ is, and to do that together, to follow Christ in that way.
Right. And even just in class, we would never, as we get to know each other better and better, the discussions become sort of more humble, and it's easier for us to come to the truth because we know each other. We just get to know how each person speaks and each person thinks and where each person is coming from. So in that sense, we don't have to get over, we don't have to get over, I guess, first impressions or misunderstandings. That we know each other. It's much easier to come to the truth in the context of friendship.
And if there's a conflict, you wind up having to work it out
Exactly.
because you're going to see each other in class the next day. So yeah, you have that opportunity as well. You desire to walk in a discipling and mentoring relationship. As part of our intent, as I said before, is to know our students and know them well, and to ask the hard questions about what's going on in their life, not just academically, but also spiritually and in relationships, and to do so that in a way that encourages them to grow into what it means to be an adult, to take on this responsibility. You believe that there's life outside the classroom. Also part of the activities and so forth, the life of the school. We have regular ongoing competitions and house events and a variety of things that get us outside the classroom, enjoying one another, not just what we do day by day inside the classroom. So it's a beautiful opportunity to enter into those relationships. We divide students into one of four houses. This is the old British system. We didn't steal this from Harry Potter. Harry Potter still from the old British system. So this is, there's an antecedent there. But immediately as a freshman on campus, you are in a group of students of sophomores, juniors, seniors, and professors. And there's a sense of identity. There's a sense of connection. There are people that you can go to and be connected with, and that you've got responsibilities of hosting events for the college and participating in events for your house, and immediately starting those relationships there, but also doing things which are fun, that are physically active, that are mentally challenging, but are not just coursework. You long for your vocational passions to be ignited with greater clarity and wisdom. I think one of the questions that a lot of people have as they enter in college is, what am I supposed to do? What's my job going to be? One of the things that we talk about coming in and remind students of again and again, there's so much more pressure about what are you going to do, when I think the focus should rather be, who are you going to be? So not what are you going to do in 4 years, but who are you going to be after 4 years of going through a program that is spiritually and intellectually formative. And then because of the changes in who you are, that leads into then what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. So much of the modern sense of identity is wrapped up in what you do. When you meet somebody new in social situations, almost always the first question is, what do you do? What's your job? And becomes an aspect of identity, as opposed to what are the things that you love? What are your vocations? What are the things that you're called to? And we get so wrapped up in that job that we miss that whole development of who we are as people. So that leads to jobs. We're not against people finding jobs, but if you make that the focus, then you also lose all the steps along the way that prepare you more fully for what it is God is calling you to do for a job. And having those vocations and those passions ignited, having the clarity then to move into the things that He has called you to do. I think it's very important. You believe that wisdom for the present is best informed by great minds of the past. We read a lot of old books, and that's because there's wisdom and truth there. And as Lewis talks about the fact that sometimes the old books are the ones that are at least more distant from our time and have a better understanding of the issues that are facing us. There's nothing new under the sun, as the preacher says in Ecclesiastes, and we think we have all these good modern questions, and in fact there are old answers because people have been wrestling with the same types of questions for millennia, and to not disregard the democracy of the dead, but to engage in that conversation deeply and richly, robustly, for the sake of not just living the past as an idealized way, but for the sake of application in the present time and place in which God has called us to live. I went backwards there. You respond to the wonder of God's creation and providence with gratitude and awe. There's a response that's required of us. It's a worship response. When you are engaged in learning new truth, that should cause us to be humble and to worship. And we are made as worshipers. Never in Scripture does God have to tell people that they should worship. He has to instruct them how to worship, because they're going to worship naturally anyway. He tells them he tells them what not to worship. Don't worship the sun and the moon and the stars. Don't worship the idols. But we're inclined to worship. So as we respond to truth, as we respond to the glory of creation that God has made, our hearts are inclined to worship, but we want to worship rightly. And we do so with the gratitude and the awe. There's nothing that we have that has not been given, as Scripture tells us. All is a gift. And to receive that as such, the learning, the opportunities around us, to receive that as a gift that to then respond to in gratitude. Here's a quick curriculum overview, which may be like super tiny. So I'll talk through about this a little bit. One of the important attributes of New College is that we have 1-degree program. And that is an incredible benefit. I know that seems limiting in some ways, but it's an incredible benefit. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why in a moment. But historically speaking, the purpose of a liberal arts education, a true liberal arts education, was to prepare a student to move on to the next steps, to move on to medicine or law or philosophy or theology. And it was seen as the foundation from which you could then move into a variety of different vocations. That's actually been true of our students, our graduates, the types of things that they have gone on to do with this 1-degree program in the liberal arts. But part of the beauty of the 1-degree program means that everybody reads the same things. Essentially, I mean, there's some variation here and there, but essentially year after year, all the core books remain the same, which means that instead of when I was in college, I took a class with a group of students that I never saw again. So anything that we read and talked about in class, I never had the opportunity to continue that conversation with them. That was just kind of one and done. You're finished. And in such way too, because of the way things were taught, a professor couldn't necessarily build upon or assume the knowledge that you had from previous classes. So everything kind of becomes siloed into its own isolated sense. What we've done is we have a 4-year unified curriculum, so that what you read in first semester, the professor can talk about in second semester, or a different professor can talk about it 2 years later in a different course. And so there's this ongoing conversation that we're building these layers of conversation with the great works, and continually referring back and forth to them in various ways. That enables us to have a much more rich lattice work of ideas, because we're constantly referring to things that have been previously read, and being able to then talk to other classmates, not only your classmates but people from other years. How's that been in your experience? Just in
Yeah,
less than a year and a half.
and just all my classes in freshman year, they all would speak to each other, all 5 of them, and also having those classes with the same people, we would bring up things from a different class in each class all the time, and that just again reinforced that none of these classes were out of place. None of these classes were unnecessary. They all spoke to one each other and enhanced and enhanced and reinforce that all knowledge is connected.
Typically, when you enter into a college program, you have your general ed classes, which are the first 2 years, which are kind of the things that almost everybody has to take. And then your last 2 years, you get more focused into your area of study. From day one at New College, we don't really have gen ed classes. From day one, you're in the midst of the liberal arts study. Yeah. And that's kind of reflected in our curriculum. We have basically 5 disciplines of courses. We don't like to talk about subjects because I think that also kind of separates things, and subjects seems to be isolated. Disciplines, I love the word discipline for a number of reasons. It has in there the root of also discipleship, that you're being discipled into a certain body of knowledge. It has the root in there also of discipline in terms of the law being our schoolmistress, and that we need to be in humility to that which is a rule over us, and we need to be disciplined into that. And also the aspect too of that we are the discipline of appropriate study, of what does it mean to give ourselves to the things that that God has put before us. So we have five essential disciplines: moral philosophy, theology, trivium, quadrivium, and then application. And so each year there's a moral philosophy course. The first year is arts and letters and foundations. That gives kind of an overview of liberal arts, but also teaches the art of conversation, of what it means to engage text, how to do so well. And then the second half of that goes into works from the ancient world. And the second year of moral philosophy is all antiquity. So you get to read, the Iliad, you get to read the Odyssey, Greek plays,
Greek histories.
Greek
That's
history,
written.
yeah, Plato, Aristotle, etc. The first half of the foundations, you read a bit of Plato, read a bit of Aristotle, read a bit of Aquinas, a number of things, Hugh of St. Victor, to wrap our heads around what it is, what does it mean to be in a learning community, and what are the liberal arts, and how do we know what we know, that aspect of epistemology. Third year moral philosophy is medieval and Renaissance world, and the fourth year is modernity. So we're kind of moving through the conversation from the ancient world into the modern world, and how these various texts talk to one another. And that's one of the foundational courses. Then with regards to the theology discipline, the first year is a theology seminar, which is basic understanding of doctrines of Scripture and doctrines of God and church. Then there's a second year is 2 semesters of Koine Greek. The third year is a third semester of Koine Greek plus a semester of Ora et Labora, which is practical instruction in the spiritual disciplines. So we don't just say, hey, we're about spiritual disciplines, but here's actual ways to practice that. And then the fourth year is what we call sacred theology, from the standpoint that it's engaging Greek translation of text, but also wrestling with questions of theology. It's often very easy, I think, sometimes to teach theology from a lecture format, because you want to rightly handle the word of truth, and then it needs to be appropriately done. But we also want students to actually wrestle with the ideas that are in early writings, the church fathers, through the reformers, on through that especially at various moments in church history, there were doctrinal issues that people were writing about, and they were seeking to understand from Scripture. And how do we enter into that conversation and to understand what they were writing about? Part of what we found out, with all the curriculum, with the conversational model, is that as you bring your questions to the class, as you bring your questions to the text, you're actually wrestling with an idea so that you're making it your own. And that's far different from a professor saying, we're going to read the Odyssey, and this is what you need to know about the Odyssey, and here's what you should think about these things. And now you're going to have a test on this. Instead, you're given this opportunity to wrestle with questions, and or with Plato or Aristotle. You're wrestling with these things to understand truth, and part of that wrestling then, like I said, weaves that into you, makes that your own.
Yeah, and I think with I've yet to do sacred theology, but I've done theology seminar, and that was very helpful for our class to sort of start to develop a common language as far as whether it was terms in theology or just different ways of approaching it. So even when we come from different backgrounds or different church denominations, we're building this common language that we can interact in.
The trivium courses, composition and logic first year, and composition, you think, well, I know how to write. There is a difference, we have found over the years, there is a difference between writing and then moving into academic writing. You're nodding your head.
Yes. Composition. I actually did CiRCE's Lost Tools for Writing in high school, and that was incredibly helpful. And then composition was just sort of the next level in making me much more of a flexible writer, being able to write sort of impromptu and just taking. I still always work with the framework that Lost Tools of Writing gave me, but then just making that more adaptable and learning how to express your own voice through that. Yes, composition was incredible.
Which brings up another question too. I mean, especially as I'm talking about trivium, so many students who've been classically educated might think, well, I've already done that. I've already been classically educated. I've already studied aspects of liberal arts. Why would I do it again?
Classical education does not finish. Yeah, it's especially with writing, the more practice, the better. And there's no end to the ideas that you can tackle. Yeah.
And it's doing it on a different level too. Even if it's some of the same books that you've read before, you're doing so at a different level and in a different conversation and a different point in life. You're a different person than when you read it the first time.
Yeah.
So it's not a repeat. It's actually a deepening and enriching experience. Second year is rhetoric. Third year is creative writing, but that includes poetry and also the art of the personal essay. The fourth year is poetics class, which is a class is essentially taking literature from a devotional perspective, and then senior capstone, which is a project, presentation, paper, internship, something that encapsulates your experience, the things that you've learned out of New College. And that's one of those places too where you can really focus on particular areas of calling, where God has called you to. You can shape that towards those particular ends. One of the unique things, I think one of the most unique things, that's not really a phrase, but he's not supposed to say that. But anyway, with regards to New College, is the time and attention that we give to the historic aspects of the quadrivium. And there's a full year to each of the 4 disciplines in the quadrivium, because we see that as incredibly formative with regards to virtue. So and for strong historic reasons. And so with regards to arithmetic and geometry, harmonia, music, cosmology, astronomy, there's a full year of study in each of those areas as as students work through Euclid, Nicomachus, Boethius and Augustine with regards to music. Totally, you're using original sources, but but tracing these ideas through the disciplines of the quadrivium. And that is something that is not done as much as I think it should be. You can look at Hugh of St. Victor, and he would argue that it's not really classical if you're not doing both the trivium and the quadrivium, that those speak to one another, that it's the totality of the 7 together that create this path of understanding and wisdom in the liberal arts. So, Greg.
Yeah, and having taken arithmetic last year, especially the second semester, I was amazed by how arithmetic speaks to all the sciences. I discovered that arithmetic is sort of the foundational science, and every other science follows its pattern. And you can see how something like that can be a practical application if you maybe want to study science later on. If you don't, understanding how it even works brings such joy as well as that knowledge.
So for somebody who's confused and they think arithmetic is 2 + 3 = 5.
It is not. Oh goodness, it's the study well, it's the study of number, um, and how the mind works. We wrestle with through working through Euclid propositions and working through different writings, Greek writings, modern writings, how the mind is connected to naming. What does it mean to name things? Adam named the animals. How is that significant? Um, and it turns out that logic has the same sort of framework and pattern as mathematics, and the significance of words and signs, and really understanding that epistemology. What is knowledge? We're spending 4 years sort of gaining knowledge and learning. What does it actually mean to learn? And where uh, we really pressed into where is that point where knowledge is a gift from God. Reading like Theaetetus and Helen Keller, who was able to learn even though she could not see, she could not hear, she could not speak.
Broadly speaking, too, as Romans talks about that God has revealed himself in the things that he has made, even his eternal power, and since the beginning of creation. And the study of the quadrivium is the study of the cosmos with the goal of understanding the attributes and the glory of God, and not in a analogy sense, not in the fact that mountains are majestic and our God is majestic. That's true, but from the very practical sense that God spoke this world into being. And what does that look like with regards to the language of creation, number being a language of creation, and what that tells us about who God is. So it has a very much a theological and philosophical underpinning to all four of those.
Right, and in addition to that, our role as Christians bringing the kingdom to the entire universe, what does that look like? And how can we help bring the kingdom to a universe we do not know?
The last is the application, which is music and art, the first and second year, which, as Autumn already said, art, part of the main part of art is learning how to see. Music is learning how to hear. Those seem like kind of obvious things, but they're not. And so being trained in those ways. And then there are 2 years of preceptorals, which are essentially electives. Those are half semester long. So you take a total of at least 8 electives in a variety of topics in those last 2 years, and those are the things that round out the rest of the curriculum. And like we've said, all these things speak to one another. They're interrelated. There's a conversation going on between the various disciplines, and that is a very rich part of what it means to be part of New College. I've got some pictures and things, but if they're really tiny, I'll just stop sharing those and I can send those out later, and I'll talk about the rest, because the rest of the pictures were things like, hey, what does Franklin look like? And Franklin is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful historic town. What are the beautiful things about Nashville and the opportunities in Nashville? We have everything from professional football, professional hockey, professional soccer, minor league baseball, concerts, ballet, Broadway shows, orchestra, opera, yeah, on and on. So there's a lot of opportunities just up the road from us. So that's all there, as well as parks and a zoo and a really good airport. So it's easy to get in and out of Middle Tennessee. So it's a beautiful location, but we're separated from that by a bit. So it's a historic area, but there's a lot of beautiful things that are in this area that kind of enhance. Not to mention, everything from hiking to canoeing and kayaking and waterfalls and the whole beautiful aspect of life. We actually have 4 seasons for those who have like. Some of them are slighter than others, but we do, we have beautiful fall with change of foliage and um, beautiful spring with flowers coming up in February, March, and so you get more of a sense of the changing of seasons. I grew up farther south, so I never got that. So I love that aspect of being in this area as well, but still pretty temperate in terms of the weather. So it's a great location in terms of what we're trying to do and why we're doing it here. It's a very adaptive to the college itself, but also the opportunities that that come from that. It's as we've said. I mean, I think it's a bit of a unique place, only in the fact that not that it's never been done before, it just hasn't been done in a long time, and going about it in this regard with answering the big questions, the great books, walking through those, but pairing that up with a theological foundation, and doing so with a robust connection to all 7 of the historic liberal arts, and doing that in intentional community. So we are intentionally small. We are 60 students this year. This is our 16th year. We have had an intentional slow growth pattern because we don't want to outstrip what the relational discipling aspect of the college looks like. If we can't, our pedagogy, our teaching methodology is conversation, and you can't have conversation with a large class. And so we've intentionally kept classes small. This is the first year that we've had a double cohort or double sections of freshmen. So we have 25, 26 freshmen, but we've divided them into classes of 12 and 13, so that there's still that good conversation around the table, because classes literally happen around tables.
Yes, they do.
And so people are there around the table. Once again, that may seem limiting, but I think the conversation and the opportunity to be able to speak in class, be known, be known by your professors, be known by peers, is it's almost like a high-end, tailor-made, bespoke education, because it's very individual, and that's I think the only other thing that would be, I think, like this is hiring a private tutor to do all your classes just one-on-one. So you have that kind of that sense that you that intimate knowledge of one another in a beautiful way in terms of knowledge. Autumn's a little bit of a unique situation in that my daughter is also in her class. And so I say unique from that standpoint because we see a lot of sophomores in our house, which is a lot of fun for us as a family. But you talk about a little bit with regards to things like studying together and meals and activities and so forth. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a balance. How many social things can you commit to? And when should you just be alone and do your school? But again, the sort of the community we have is so well suited to, places you can study. We study at each other's apartments or at coffee shops or at the Wilbers. And everybody just sort of finds their groove of what works for them. And we do, as far as meals go, that often is the thing that binds us together the most, is making meals together and having meals together. And not just as a break from school, but sort of a delight in its own right.
And that leads to question too about housing. We don't have student housing, intentionally so. We have students, some who live with families and some who group together and live with other students in apartments. And back to Dr. Bianco's point earlier on, even in a small college setting, having someone empty your trash and make meals for you, so forth, it is a insulation from what life is. When you have to also figure out things like, I need to go to the grocery store, and I need to pay bills, and I need to cook food. You have those opportunities to take on responsibility and to grow into that as well.
Right, and it's so helpful to see it as an opportunity, and you sort of want to ask yourself, you're going to have to take on those responsibilities at some point. What kind of environment do you want to be in when you're learning those things and sometimes failing at those things? And it's so encouraging to have people around you who are support as you're trying to learn those things.
So if you fail, it's not catastrophic.
Right.
You can learn along the way. Yeah. So there's that kind of aspect as well, that kind of safety net, but also leaning into being responsible. We are accredited as well, so that's another factor. We try to keep tuition low for the standpoint of being able to, we're not paying for an aquatic center or traveling sports teams or big campus. So we're able to keep costs low and focus particularly on the education itself. And so that's helpful with students working as well as in classes. Our student body, as a small college, I think we initially thought when we started 15 years ago, 16 years ago, that most of our students would be from Tennessee. And from the first year, that was not the case. And that has been so ever since. So we've had, including current students and former students, we've had students from Alaska, Washington State, Oregon, Idaho,
It's from Florida.
Montana, Wisconsin, California, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Kentucky, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, Connecticut, all through Ohio,
Yep.
Kansas, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota. So we've had students from a variety of different places, and that's been really great to have that enriching experience too, to have students from various places. We also have students, as you mentioned earlier, from a variety of different theological backgrounds, which adds to the conversation as well. We have theological standards with regards to who we are as a college, but yet that's a place to land, but it's also a place of freedom to know where we can disagree and where we can also engage each other in conversation for the sake of mutual understanding. And bottom line is we have a common enemy, the world, the flesh, and the devil that is seeking to destroy us. And so to lock arms with brothers and sisters from various traditions and to do so in a spirit of harmony and humility, and to be able to do this together has always been very enriching, I think, to the community of the college itself. And that's, I think, been one of our strengths over the years as well. So there's, even in the sense of, well, it's a small college and it's all classically educated, so forth, there's still diversity there, and things that we learn from one another, and in different perspectives. It's very helpful to do so in an environment that is cultivating good relationships as well as is growing in Christ.
Right. And it doesn't, we have the college community, but we also have the community around us. So we meet in Cornerstone Presbyterian Church, and there's other churches in the area that sort of are part of this community as well. And I personally have been able to find so many friends and mentors in the new college community, but also in my church community, and that's just a gift from God, and so encouraging.
It's part of our ethics code to have students actively involved in their church, because I think the other thing too, back to your point earlier, is that so often in college it's a lot of peer interaction, which is great, and it has its own place, but not as much of what it means to have older people in your life speak into your life, and being involved in church with regards to if that's a fellowship group or a Bible study or regular attendance in church worship services is essential to have those relationships that are people who are a little bit farther down the road, that have some gray hair and have some wisdom, and that are able to speak into the situations in life, because they've probably walked through it or known somebody who has, and has they have resources and help as you walk through that.
Does the church happen on campus? So the college meets inside the church building of Cornerstone Presbyterian Church, which is just on 3rd Avenue here in Franklin. So
currently,
yes,
this
currently.
is where we've been for the last 15 years,
Yes.
but we are outgrowing, and we would be needing additional or alternative space. Yeah, but
yes. And so Cornerstone has its church services, and many of the students and Mr. Wilbur does the music for Cornerstone, but those aren't necessarily connected like the church services and the college.
Yeah, there's not connected ministries. It's separate ministries, separate but cooperative. And so the church serves the college in a number of ways. The college is able to serve the church, but then students go to a variety of different churches, and are able to do that, and wherever they decide to go, as long as they go regularly and are participating. Yeah. So.
I think one more thing I would add about what it, is New College right for you? Are you the kind of student who would thrive at New College? The main reason, the primary reason that I came was I recognized that there's an authenticity to New College that I could not find anywhere else. If you're not satisfied with a shallow education, if you're not satisfied with, if you don't want just the surface, just the get through it, just the, barrel through all the bureaucracy that is so common in higher education, if you don't want the fake, if you're fed up with that, like New College is such a breath of fresh air. It's real people trying to do the liberal arts and philosophy and theology as excellently as possible. And yeah, just the nonsense is not there.
So I would encourage you too that to come visit. Anybody come visits, because I think there's a lot of things you can read about colleges and see their pretty pictures in their pamphlets, and we have pretty pictures, and we have beautiful students that we highlight in our pretty pictures, and and you can see people having class outside and all the wonderful things that colleges show you because they want you to come to college there. And those things are true, and those things are true of all those colleges. I assume those things are true for all those colleges that print those pictures. I know they're true for us. But the distinctive aspect about who we are as New College, you can't really understand until you come and set foot on campus. When you sit in a class and see the interaction between students and professors, and see the quality of interaction in the hallway, the level of conversation, the care for one another. Those are intangible things that you can't convey in a brochure or on a website. But that's what makes the college experience important, and that's who we are. And so I would encourage anybody to come visit and to make time. We have a prospective weekend every fall and spring. In fact, we have one coming up.
Yes, at the end of this month.
Yeah.
I think it's the 29th and 30th.
So there's information on that on the website. Or if you can't make a prospective weekend, contact us and come visit. We love to have students come and visit, and to sit in on classes and to spend time with students. I think that is the number one thing that I think students walk away with, not only understanding who we are better and having a sense of what the spirit of the place is, but often leaving with friendships. People come to visit for a prospective weekend and meet other perspectives or current students, and wind up continuing a friendship based off of a couple of days. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's part of the nature and the character of who we are as a college, what we value, and the fact that we value those who come through our doors, whether as students or parents or as perspectives. Are there other questions or comments?
Do you want to talk to them about like any application dates or times and stuff like that, or?
Sure. Yes, we've got our current application up on our website. The date is early November. I can't remember if it's the 1st or it's early November for the first round. We are limiting number of students just because we're trying to keep class sizes small. I don't say that in a threatening way of like only the top students, but from the standpoint of if you're interested in, it's worth going ahead and getting an application in. And I think even the application is designed to be helpful and instructive about who we are. Tuition is right around below 14,000, I think currently for this year. And then there are books and housing on top of that. We do have academic scholarships and some need-based scholarships as well. We do not take federal financial aid because we don't want to. There are too many strings attached with that with regards to the Department of Education. And we want to be able to be free to teach the things that we want to teach in the ways which are most appropriate with regards to growing in wisdom and virtue and towards the purpose of service.
And as far as housing goes, there are so many apartment complexes in the area. And Mrs. McCoy will connect students with incoming students who are looking for housing. There are people at New College to help coordinate and connect and get students together and find things that are doable and affordable and, you know, within good distance from the school.
Yeah, we don't leave you on your own to find
No,
housing.
yes, you
We
will
help
be stranded.
bring people together. So forth. Another word about tuition too, just so kind of the ugly truth about the tuition game at colleges. You'll see a college that has a tuition maybe the twice for round numbers. Let's just say ours is 14 and somebody else's is 30. You know, and they have a tuition of 30,000, and then they have a special scholarship, and then there's another break, and then there's so forth. And so you wind up with this package of, we're giving you all this aid and these scholarship programs, and all you need to pay is you're getting half tuition off, so all you need to pay is 15,000. The secret is that no one pays 30,000. Very rarely. They set a high number, knowing that you can see, it leaves you with the impression of, I'm getting a $30,000 education, the value of a $30,000 education for only 15,000. We try to cut out all of that. So we're not trying to play games with numbers in terms of inflating the numbers so that we can come down on the numbers and say, look at the great deal that we gave you. This is what it costs us. This is the slimmed down, small staff, approach to having as quality of education as possible with low overhead costs. Another question that people may ask too is like, how do you do this? What's with a small college? What do you have, like 2 professors? No, I've lost track now. We've got 4 full-time plus adjuncts. So we have somewhere around 10, 11, 12 faculty members. So there's a robust faculty as well that are teaching a variety of things. And so it's not just 1 or 2 faculty members. And we have people teaching, especially some of the adjuncts. These are people who are topping their game, who desire to teach at a small liberal arts college in Middle Tennessee, and we are so thankful to have them. So it's a high quality faculty, and a beautiful situation in which to learn and grow.
And the faculty are often also the mentors. It's just the encouragement to have, your professors who are, dads and moms and very godly people and are willing to sort of take you in as well as teach you the school. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, authentic and refreshing. Thank you for saying. I'm glad that you've been at your experience. Yes, that is what our hope is for anyone who comes, even just to visit on campus. We are very grateful to the Lord for the work that He's done here these past. It's our 16th year, but it was several years of work before that, and He's been very faithful to provide the things that we've needed over the years, and incredible faculty and staff, and just the quality of students that He's brought from all over. It's been I have this great job of being able to sit on the sidelines and see the Spirit at work in the lives of students, and it's an incredible joy.
Yeah, and really that's it. It's I think somewhere on one of our New College things, it says something like, knowledge is not power, knowledge is joy. And that's really the spirit that's here.
That's good. That's a good line. I like it. Take that, bacon.
All right. Yes.
I've been out there a few times, obviously,
Mhm.
right, and done some events there. So I just would like to share, if I can, on y'all's
Please, yeah.
behalf, that I think New College got something special going on out there. I mean, you have the town of Franklin, it's city of Franklin, I guess, but it's just it's quaint, it's beautiful, it's just an amazing town to be able to walk around and enjoy. But also, it's like right down the road from all that big city stuff you were talking about, the kind of events that you can cultural events that you could go to. There's some amazing churches in the area. The building, although I guess you might be moving from it soon, but the building that you're in is really nice looking. And then, but then the program itself, the faculty that you've got there, I know a handful of the faculty members there, and they're all great people. And then, Autumn already pointed out the godliness of them, which is a big deal, because mentors are an important part of how we're gonna survive this next phase. How the people going into this phase of life are going to survive it, through mentors, and godly ones at that. And then I think what really just kind of makes you guys stand out for me, is your commitment to all 7 of the liberal arts, and that this is if I could steal some of my own language from the beginning of the presentation, but this is an education that is preparing you to be a free human being, and to be somebody who can wield authority and rights and responsibility properly. Um, and if you become qualified and capable of performing a servile arts job after that, well, that's just awesome. That's just wonderful, and that does happen, right? So it's the only school I know of that has the commitment that you have, especially to the quadrivium, and the and making students go through and learn the arithmetic and geometry and harmonia and cosmology that I know of no other school that has that to those 4 arts the way you all do. So
Right.
it's a special program there, and then the communal and relational aspect of it, that it's small, but that it's small makes the relationships and the community that much more powerful. It can be scary, but important and powerful, right? Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
it's awesome. I love you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. We've so appreciate what CiRCE is doing and has done, and the opportunity we've had to kind of overlap for a number of years and conferences and such, because there's so much about that incarnational living out of what it means to be educated, and those things which are important, the priorities of what's important, that are very near and dear to who we are and what we're about. Right.
Thank God. Any other questions?
And we appreciate this opportunity. It's great to be able to be here, and always great to see you, Matt.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Well, thanks, Frank, for being here again. Frank was a steadfast attendee all 5 days, so I learned some things about Frank along the way. Actually, I can't wait to meet him in person.
Great.
And
Frank, come visit us.
yeah, go visit it. So thanks for the good questions, and thank you for the introduction to everybody for New College Franklin. Good idea bringing Autumn along. So that was a good addition.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, Autumn. And then yeah, hopefully for those of you watching the recordings later on, I encourage you, reach out, go visit if you can, talk to the folks there at New College. It's special. So you want to at least know what's going on there before you make that next big decision for your life.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Evening, great weekend.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks.